the Sheikh, please send it in via the WhatsApp. The number should be below with the QR code round about here. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, you can put your questions in the comment section, or alternatively, give us a call live in the studio 0203 515 0199 if you're in the UK. And if you're outside the UK, you can use the WhatsApp number to call in, and inshallah we'll be able to discuss and answer your questions. Before we begin, we would like to send our hearts to those victims of the earthquake in Syria and in Turkey. Many people have been affected. There have been many lives lost and so forth. And it's times like this, or times like these, where we as the Muslim community should reach out to our fellow brethren and sistren and help them through these calamities and these hardships. To discuss more is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Sheikhna, tragic scenes I'm sure you've seen on the news. You know, there's videos popping up all over social media of survivors and so forth. Any words in regards to what's going on in Turkey and Syria?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Indeed, a very tragic and calamity has poured on these two nations in Syria and Turkey. Of course, the Holy Quran says to give glad tidings to those who have patience in such moments, in such situations, and to say inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. What we can say is to our thoughts and hearts with those who have lost their loved ones and passed away in this situation, in their beds when they were sleeping at night, especially women, children, and elderly. So may Allah have His mercy on those who have passed away, mustad'afin, as mentioned in the Holy Quran, those believing individuals as well who have passed away. And of course, it is our duty to stretch our hands of support to those who are in need, in terms of financially, mentally, physically. If we can try and do something for them, I think that would be, of course, rewardable. And of course, as a human kind, we should support each other in such difficult time. Of course, the majority are Muslims, so that gives another and an extra responsibility and duty on us to help them. But of course, there could be even from non-Muslims as well who have passed away and died as a result of the earthquake, so in which we have to help because they are human beings. So inshallah, the believing individuals, men and women, would try to send their supports and what they can to help those individuals who have lost their property and everything and lost their loved ones.
So the quick reminder to all of viewers that the Imam Hussein charity, which works alongside Imam Hussein TV, is raising money, so you can go to imamhusseincharity.com to help out with the crisis in Turkey and Syria. Sheikhna, let's begin with our questions. And my first question for you, Sheikhna, is if a child extracts a mineral or uncovers a true treasure trove, who is responsible to pay the khums of these possessions?
Well, it is now the responsibility of the guardian or the parent of that child to basically calculate and see how much khums needs to be paid as a obligatory precaution, احتياط وجوبي, because you have to give for the غنائم ما غنمتم, as the Quran mentions, whatever you gain as a treasure, for example, to give away khums as a result. So if the one who took out this treasure was a child, then of course the guardian would be the one who is responsible to take out the 20% khums, or 1/5 from this treasure.
Sheikhna, can one recite a divorce whilst the two witnesses are not actually present, rather are listening on the phone, according to His Eminence the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani?
The Sayyid mentions that it is not the correct way to recite or to perform the divorce in this way as the obligatory precaution, احتياط وجوبي. Rather, both male just witnesses must be present in that moment in which when the divorce has been recited. So they listen while they're in that session, in that place of gathering, where let's say the Mawlana and the two witnesses are listening to the process of the divorce to be pronounced basically verbally. So yes, they have to be there attending the session.
Sheikh, if the husband makes it conditional in the marriage contract that the female is a virgin, and afterwards it transpires that the wife is not a virgin, what would be his ruling?
Well, it's permissible to annul the marriage contract. In other words, he can cancel this marriage contract because there is a fault.
Well, the contract hasn't been honoured, has it?
Yeah, there's a fault in the spouse, because we have ayub, or faults, in which one can actually cancel this contract of marriage rather than divorce and bring two witnesses and so forth. So fasakh, as they call it, fasakh, to annul in such situations.
Interesting. Sheikh, according to his evidence, the Grand Ayatollah says, Sistani, can a woman do wudu or ghusl without removing her nail polish?
The Sayyid mentions that it is necessary to remove the nail polish, because if you have any obstacle on your a'dha al-wudu, the wudu parts, you have to, let's say paint, for example, or let's say plaster, for example. You have to remove them and wipe or wash that area. So any obstacle would cause the wudu to be batil, in which you have to redo it again, and by removing the obstacle from the part of the wudu.
Have you seen the halal nail polish? Some of them, under the water, they just come off and you can carry on your wudu. Some of them are what we call semi-permeable, which means water can actually go through and still touch the nail and so forth. Is this acceptable?
We have to see what the fuqaha say, because now we have something is actually on the nails. It's a polish, it's a paint, color, whatever. And now you're saying that the water can reach that. We have to discuss it with the fuqaha. That would be, I think, a good way to...
Questions coming in from our viewers, Sheikh. This one's from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Can I perform wudu with kohol on? Kohol, which is like the eyeliner thing.
According to some ulama, that kuhul is not the type in which it's used now. It doesn't prevent.
Okay, it's not waterproof. It's not waterproof. So water can get
water
through.
Can reach into the eyes. So it's not really waterproof. So you can do so. I mean, it depends on the types of kuhul you use.
Fair enough. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. Is there more than one way to die a martyr? From WhatsApp.
Is it
to die a shaheed? Is there more than one way? Rather than going on the battlefield and dying a shaheed, is there other ways? For example, what if you're going to ziyarah or hajj and you die on the way? What if you die in your salah and so forth? Are there other ways to die a shaheed or get the reward of a martyr?
We have a great hadith which says, "Man mata ala hubbi ali Muhammad mata shahida." The one who dies while adoring and loving Muhammad or al-Muhammad, he does as a shaheed. He gets the reward of the shaheed. So inshallah, if you're a follower and lover of Muhammad or al-Muhammad, and you pass away with this aqeedah and belief, you'll die as a martyr and shaheed, inshallah.
Another one here from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.
Please, I was sitting in class. I felt blood in my mouth. The taste coming from my lips. Swallowing becomes haram in this case. And if it is, I just have to repeat the wudu. Thank you very much. Okay, so bleeding from the mouth, maybe it's gum disease or something like that. Maybe something stuck in between the teeth causing bleeding. And they taste it. First of all, the blood that we're tasting and stuff, are we okay to swallow that? Secondly, the blood in your mouth, does it affect your wudu? Does your wudu break? Or what about when you're performing wudu and you're cleaning your mouth? Can you still perform your wudu?
What ulama mentioned overall that such, let's say, blood in between the teeth, for example, if it dissolves in the mouth, then that will be purified automatically. You don't have to really wash your and to spit out, let's say. And if it goes automatically and disappears. Anyhow, if it's lots of, let's say, blood, where you can feel it, that's a different issue now. If you can go and wash, for example, your your mouth and spit out the blood. Sometimes it's a big chunk of blood, you know.
Yeah,
from the nose, for example.
Yeah.
Then of course you can't
It depends
swallow
on
the blood.
You know, sometimes blood is just bad gums, weak gums, but sometimes blood is, you know, there's a wound or something in your mouth, and there's excess blood coming out.
Exactly, you can't swallow the blood. It's haram. You can't. Yeah. And for the wudu, it doesn't affect the wudu. It's something internal. It doesn't affect. No, the wudu is correct. Is sahih.
Wudu, I think, is if you urinate, if you pass the wind.
Janaba
and sleeping.
So yeah, sleeping janaba.
Blood doesn't really come into it.
No, unless it comes out, let's say, on the lips and face. You just have to wash it.
Fair enough.
And then do wudu if you want to do wudu again.
Fair enough. Sheikh, in the process of halal slaughtering criteria, the animal shows some movement after it is slaughtered. Can you give an example of a movement?
Yes, there's two examples: blinking of the eyes and the move of the tail. That shows that the animal has reacted to this process of slaughtering, which makes, of course, the animal halal to consume as a result.
Sheikh, now sometimes, normally, animal doesn't move much, but even then, I've seen sometimes the slaughtering and the animal continuously moves because, you know, impulses are being sent down the nervous system, so they keep moving. So I think I've seen a video, a fish. The head has been chopped off, but the fish is still moving. It's still trying to swim and do this and that. Even the fishmonger was laughing, saying, "What's wrong with this? It's possessed." But it happens. It happens. Sheikh, now what is the definition of raji', recoverable divorce? Raj'i? Raj'i.
Yes, the raj'i divorce is when the husband divorces his wife, but that is a raj'i. Let's say a returning marriage, in other words, where in the iddah time, the husband has the right to go back to his wife without reciting any aqd or marriage contract. So if he decides to go back to his normal life as he was before, by saying some words or action, he can return to his wife without any nikah contract. So that's known as to be raj'i. And this has to be done within the iddah period, not outside the iddah. So within the iddah period, he's got the right to return to his wife.
Sheikh, is it permissible for an Islamic government to allow non-believers to cremate their bodies? Now, cremation, Sheikh, is with some Christians do it. You know, in the subcontinent where I come from, the Indians, the Hindus and the Sikhs, they also cremate their bodies and so forth. So, for those who don't follow Islam or don't have a practice of burying their dead under an Islamic government, and let's say they're living under an Islamic government, are they allowed to cremate their bodies?
We have a basis known as the Qa'idat al-Ilzam, which means, I've got this translation here, that it means enjoining them with what they enjoin themselves with. In other words, ألزموهم بما ألزموا به أنفسهم. We as Muslims would respect other religions' contracts and acts that they have. Let's say if a Christian marries a woman, let's say in the church, I cannot marry this woman anymore.
You acknowledge their...
Acknowledging, this is the right word, ilzam, acknowledging their acts. If the husband divorces his wife in a certain religions, then I can marry this woman. Again, I would accept and acknowledge their divorces. So yes, according to this basis of qaida, yes, it is permissible to do so for the cremation, allow them, because they think it's for them is right, or in their religion, for example. So yeah, Qa'idat al-Ilzam is there to basically ease the situation for both sides, especially the Muslims if they wanted to marry, or to, for example, I mean, it's just to make things easier for them when it comes to marriage and divorce, at least.
No problem. Sheikh, when the Muslim hunter reaches the animal that has already died with the hunting weapon, is there enough time to slaughter it? And the hunter does not slaughter it until it dies, would the meat be halal to consume?
Because he had some time left to slaughter the animal was alive, and he left it till it died, then of course the meat would be haram to consume. You either kill the animal with a sharp gun, or let's say tool and such like, saying Bismillah, shooting towards the animal, all these conditions of mentioned in the fiqh, to strike the flesh of the animal, to rip the flesh, for example. All these conditions are mentioned in hunting. If this animal did not die, then you have to slaughter it straight away. Otherwise, you cannot consume it. It becomes meat and haram.
Also, Sheikh, I think you're allowed to have animals to help you with hunting. For example, like a dog or something like that. And even if the dog, brings back the prey in its mouth and things like that, is there still enough time to slaughter?
Yes, it's mentioned in the fiqh as well. We have a hunting dog as well that goes and hunts and bites the animal.
Yeah.
There's mentioned there details about this issue as well. Yes.
Fair enough. Sheikh, when the fish is received from a Muslim, can we assume that it is halal and there is no need for making queries about it?
Yes, indeed. Again, the Muslim market, again, the Muslim himself, in which we would usually correct his acts when it comes to slaughtering animal, poultry, for example, catching fishes, that they would be bound with the criteria of fishing, according to what the Sharia says, for example. So you would usually buy your fish without asking in a Muslim country. Likewise, you would buy your chicken and meat from a Muslim without asking about the source and the how, because the hand of the Muslim and the Muslim market is a hujjah, is a proof that it's being halal. That's why we don't really ask. We just go on. If it says halal, we just buy.
Yeah, but Sheikh, we have the school of the Ahlul Bayt. We have extra laws when it comes to seafood compared to other Muslim schools. So can we assume that the Muslim fishmonger, all the fish is halal and we're allowed to eat? Or should we keep in mind that we are only allowed to eat fish with scales?
Of course, when it comes to the type of the fish, we have to make sure that we eat only the fish which has scales, with the exception of prawns as well, we can eat.
Yeah.
So basically, the issue of buying from Muslim is different than what they're actually selling. It's a different issue.
Ah, I see.
So two different ahkam, let's say, with this regard. So the hand of the Muslim is a hujjah, as a proof you can buy. And then when it comes to the type of meat he's selling, if you're selling pork, then you can't, of course, let's say, buy the pork because it's haram. So yes, exactly.
Questions coming in from our viewers. Here we go. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna. I knew I was wearing something that was najis, but didn't realize the impurity was transferring to my body. When I washed myself in the bathroom, I changed my clothes when I prayed, but did not realize my body was najis while praying. Is my prayer invalid? So, let's say that there was blood on someone's shirt. They took off the shirt and changed, but there was also blood on the skin. And then they realized later on, oh, wait, there's blood on my skin. Not just on the shirt, it was on the skin as well. The salah that I prayed, do I have to repeat it or is it okay?
What the ulama say, that if the blood is less than the dirham, there's a dirham in the old days that used to measure.
It's like a thumbprint.
It's like a thumbprint, yeah, this size, for example. Is it penny or something?
You could say it's 2 pence piece.
2 pence, less than that. Then, of course, there's no issue for them to pray with this, even if they know it. Yeah.
Sheikh, now we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars at home.
Is it permissible to plant trees by or
What
over
Islam
the
establish
graves?
based on peace and
Is it
non-violence?
permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it permitted
individuals?
to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Yes, and those are the ways that you can send in your questions to Ahkam SOS. You can send by WhatsApp. On the bottom there should be a QR code somewhere there. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, you can send in your questions on the comment section, and inshallah the Sheikh and I will be able to discuss and answer your questions. If you want to call in, 0203 515 0199, or alternatively give us a call on the WhatsApp number if you're calling internationally, and inshallah we would love to hear from you and answer your question. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikh, we have some questions from last week. Inshallah we'll be able to go through them with you. Assalamu alaikum. Is there a specific reason Imam made distinction with shrimp being halal outside of fish with scales?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, the narration speaks about that what types of fish we can eat, in which the Imam mentions the one with the scales, for example, and the exception of, as you mentioned, the prawns.
Oh, shrimp, the prawn family,
No, the reason I couldn't find anything that gives the reason. For example,
if you think about it, Sheikhna, the shell of a prawn, it's not like crab or lobster. It's not hard. It's actually a scale. It's very thin. It's very light. Some say it's not even a shell. It's scales. So maybe that is a reason that the prawns are considered to have scales as well. That could be one reason. But sometimes it doesn't even need a reason. We have riwayah that say that we can have prawns and so forth, and that's enough hujjah.
Yeah, sometimes you see, after centuries, the science comes and discovers the reason behind this tashri', that
Yes.
why is this halal or haram, for example, is because of this issue.
Ahsan. Also, Shaykhna, from last week, do we have Salat al-Istikhara? Now, I have friends from other madhabs who believe in Salat al-Istikhara, who have performed Salat al-Istikhara. And the way they did it was, they used to say on a Thursday night, you pray 2 rak'ah nafil with the intention of Istikhara. You give your niyyah of the Istikhara. You pray the prayer and you go to sleep. And in your dream, you'll get your answer. We, the school of the Ahlul Bayt, do we have something similar, Shaykhna?
We have in overall that it's a detailed, I don't want to take your time and the viewers' time. Basically, there's in the middle of the process of the istikhara, that 2 rak'ah you pray, and then you go to sujood, and you ask Allah Azza wa Jalla 100 times, Allahumma astakhiruka khiratan fi afiyah. So Allah asks you khira with goodness in other words. So, and there's details about this type of istikhara in anyhow. So yes, we have something similar. Of course, different types of ways to do istikhara. As I've said before, with the Quran, with the tasbih, the salat 2 rak'ah, and so forth.
Ahsant. Shaykhna, what is the view on withdrawal of artificial nutrition on patients with vegetative state? What if the treatment is not improving and the patient and the doctor has to take the best interest decision? So Shaykhna, it happens a lot. It's known as euthanasia. When we have a patient who can no longer survive by themselves, the machine is helping pump their heart, pump blood around, or helping them breathe. But the patient itself is in a vegetative state, meaning they can't speak, they can't move, they can't even blink. They just sit there and they're alive. Maybe the brain is working, maybe not. We're not sure. We can't. There's some brain activity going on. The doctor has tried all the medicines and treatments and says, look, there's nothing more we can do. He's going to stay, this person's going to stay like this. In this situation, because obviously in this country, the hospitals have budgets, they have money, they need to treat others as well. There's always that famous saying, you're wasting a hospital bed, that bed is required for somebody else to lay on to get treatment and so forth. In that situation, is it acceptable as Muslims, are we allowed to say, yes doctor, you're right, stop giving the nutrition, stop giving the IV drip, stop the treatment, and we'll see where the body naturally takes course?
From our side, as Muslims, we're not allowed to take someone's life, even if they are still, in this situation, as you mentioned, euthanasia, where only the heart beats, for example. I think in Arabic they call it maut sariri, dead in his bed or in her bed.
Yeah.
So it's just the heart pumps blood to the body, and that's it. Nothing else works. As Muslims, we are not allowed to take someone's life, because Allah Azza wa Jalla yatawaffa al-anfus hina mawt. Allah is the one who takes the soul of the individual. We are not allowed take our lives or someone else's life.
But at the same time, Sheikhna, so are we supposed to save people's lives? Is that incumbent upon us? That if we can help and
Yes,
save someone's life, we should?
of course, we have to do our best to save people's lives, even in this situation.
I see what you're saying.
If the hospital wants to do it, so that's their responsibility, and they take the burden. But we're not allowed to take someone's life, even if they are completely 90%, let's say disabled or can't feel anything except a bit of breath or artificial breath, for example, and just the heart works and that's nothing else.
Fair enough. Sheikh, a question here from YouTube. If you can't remove all the nail polish due to some bits remaining in the skin fold between the nail and skin, can you still do ghusl and be pak, tahar for praying? YouTube. So when you are removing your nail polish for wudu or for ghusl and so forth, and sometimes in between the nail and skin, some chips get stuck or so forth, can you continue your wudu and your ghusl? Is it okay, or is that still an obstacle and can cause problems?
Of course, you have to do your best to remove not just any paint or, let's say, strong glue, for example. If you couldn't remove them, of course, now this turns to be into what is known as wudu jabiri. In other words, the jabira type of wudu. I think they call it splint wudu or something, because they have something on their hands.
Okay.
It's like a bandage you have on your hand.
Yes, bandage.
What do you do, for example, a splint wudu?
You have to go over the top.
That type of wudu in which you do also a wudu jabir as a result, because you have something on, let's say, your arm, for example.
From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna. What can I do when I start doubting whether if I'm in the right sect? I know I'm in the right one, but how do I solidify my iman? Sheikhna, a lot of people, unfortunately, get how do I say it, nudged from their position, and I think it is a call from Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam Ali alayhi salam that the believer's iman is up and down, depending on the day and so forth. It's always being tested, but it's always being reinforced at the same time. Sheikhna, the best ways for people, for the viewers, to strengthen their iman, what would you suggest?
Always think about this narration, in which narrated by both the Shia and the non-Shia, that the Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he leaves two weighty and necessary things: the Book of Allah and his progeny. So always be with the Book of Allah Azza wa Jal, with the Holy Quran, and Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Try to attend their majalis in the occasions, let's say Shahada, Milad, and so forth. Try to understand and read the Quran through the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. What does it mean, for example, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, who are they, for example, and so forth. Try to understand basically these meanings of the verses through narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, or Ayatul Wilayah, or Ayatul Tathir, for example. These readings would give some kind of strength to the heart and the mind of the believing individual, and would be steadfast and firm with their aqeedah more and more.
I think it's very important for those who have issues with their iman or the doubting Islam and so forth, is that you haven't read enough. You haven't actually delved into the science of theology, especially the theology of the Ahlul Bayt and so forth. Mashallah, Sayyidina, you know more than me that we have so many detailed, advanced conversations in regards to Tawheed, Adala, Nubuwa, Imama, Ma'ad. Unfortunately, and I speak for myself, is that we don't spend enough time studying and reading and reinforcing our Imam. For example, Sheikhna, have you read Kitab al-Tawheed? I think it's Sheikh Saduq's book, Kitab al-Tawheed. Apparently, it's an amazing book, really, really advanced level. It's not for beginners, but it will really, really help you enforce your understanding and so forth. Sheikhna, a question from one of the viewers: what is the fastest and most recommended way to pray one's qadha prayers?
The fastest way is to pray with each wajib daily prayer. So let's say if you now stand for Salat al-Maghrib and Isha now, and then you want to pray the wajib ones. After praying those two wajib prayers, you pray another set of Qadha, Maghrib and Isha together. And then the next session is Salat al-Fajr and morning prayer. Again, 2 rak'ah of the Qadha with the 2 rak'ah of wajib daily prayer, and so forth. That's the best way to actually pray them. Of course, month of Ramadan would be a good idea.
Yes.
For those who stay overnight to do a'mal, and then other nights and so forth.
Another thing is, people. One thing I recognize in Ramadan, you have a lot more time, which really, it makes you think how much time you spend eating food. But you have a lot more time on your hands, and you could utilize that to catch up on your qadha prayers. Another one here, Sheikhna, from one of our viewers. What is the specific intention one should have when performing qadha prayers?
It's just that you have to keep it in your mind that I'm praying to make up what I've missed. أصلي قضاءً. That's it. Just keep it in your mind. You don't have to say it. Some people would stand and say, "Usalli salat al-maghrib." You don't have to say this. Just keep it in your mind and say, "Allahu Akbar." That's it.
Sheikhna, would you recommend someone to do their qadha prayers? Let's say this person was born into a Muslim family and they weren't that religious. They would attend majalis here and there, but they didn't perform salah. Maybe they fasted here and there, but they weren't practicing. Now they've probably got 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years even, of qadha prayers that they haven't read. Now, let's say they had one Muharram experience, or one Ziyarah experience, or one Hajj experience. Now their spirit, the soul has woken up. They want to become more obedient towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Would you recommend someone like that to go back and perform their qadha prayers as well? Or would you say no, start with the wajibat, start with today's prayers, tomorrow's prayers, work your way? How would you help this person to in their struggle?
As I've said before, in that initially they have to pray their wajib daily prayers on time, and then to add whatever they missed within that wajib prayer. As I've said, if they have missed couple years of salah, with each wajib salah you pray extra as qadha. Slowly, and you have, mashallah, for the month of Ramadan missed qadha as well. You have Shahr Rajab and Sha'ban. Inshallah, you get the reward if you fast in these 2 months. Let's say qadha, inshallah you get the reward as well for fasting in these 2 great months as well.
From one of the viewers, does the hair need to be completely dry for wudu? Or is it enough if the water of the hand overcomes any moisture or wetness of the hair? This is to do with the masa.
If there's a little bit of moist, in which the moist of your hand is more than the moist of your hair, that should be sufficient.
Inshallah. Sheikh, is cutting nails and trimming hair forbidden for a person who wants to offer sacrifice in their own country before Eid al-Adha?
I didn't get the question.
Cutting nails and trimming hair forbidden for a person who wants to offer sacrifice in his own country before Eid al-Adha.
What's the connection between
I don't know, this is the question.
clipping your nails and hair and
Beats me.
Adha? I'm not sure about it.
Never mind. If you send the question in again, inshallah we'll be able to help. Sheikh, we've got time for one more question, I hope. This is a good one. It is very difficult to find a male barber in my small town, and almost all the barbers there are female. Is it okay if a female cuts my hair when I don't have any sense of attraction to them at all?
The problem is that she might be touching your hair, or let's say face, when she wants to turn your face towards the left or the right. That touching is haram. And of course, the advice is always, in all fields and aspects, that try to find the same gender first. In medics and treatments, as you mentioned, in all fields, try to find the same gender to avoid any issues, because the shaitan plays a vital role when it comes to the opposite gender interaction in such places. So we try to avoid such interactions, in which definitely would please Allah Azza wa Jal and would make our Imam happy as well, because we have abided and respected these laws just to avoid the acts of haram.
Ahsan Shaykhna, thank you very much, and thank you to all our viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. If we didn't answer your question, we do apologize, we ran out of time. Those questions will be rolled over to the next episode, which will be on Monday, 7 p.m. here on Imam Hussein TV 3. If you have any question that you would like to send in, please send it via the WhatsApp number, or if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, just put it in the comment section. Hopefully the technical team will pick them up and forward them, and inshallah we'll answer them on the next episode. Until then, take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Even death was not able to separate Abbas from Hussein, just as the haram of Abbas cannot be separated from the haram of Hussein, in the same way that Safa can never be separated from the mountain of Marwa. Allah subhanahu